Hi, I'm Shaka Hislop, and you're here at Extra Time TV.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Extra Time TV. This is Andrew Sooklal, and as you can see, I'm not alone. It's a crowd today, folks. So, of course, we have joining us once again James Baird, our man from Scotland, and also returning a guy who supported us from the very beginning, Mr. Andre Samuel. I'm going to call you Samuel just to be fancy. Heavily involved in the fan zone for Trinidad Tobago with some groovy videos at the games. So welcome, Andre.
All right, nice to be here, man. Nice to be here, and it's a good occasion to make a comeback on your show. Huh?
Yeah. Yes. And James, of course, as always, good of you to join us. James has been with us every day, all the time.
It's good to be here again, and it's a good evening with the result tonight. So yeah.
Yes. So let's get straight into it. So we're all Soca Warrior fans, Trinidad Tobago fans. Angus Eve got off to a great start with a 6-1 victory over Montserrat in a game where a lot of people were uncertain how this game was going to turn out. With the goal scorers being Kevin Molino in the 21st minute, Marcus Lobo Joseph, Ryan Telfer, Judah Garcia, Rian Moore getting 2 goals, and Lyle Taylor. Not exactly in that order. Okay, so, guys, I'll start off with you, Andre. What was your initial thought, before the game and now seeing this final result?
I actually was pretty nervous before the game because we wasn't sure what we were going to get from both sides, meaning we weren't sure what we were going to get from Montserrat as a unit, and we also wasn't sure, what we were going to get from this Angus Eve coach team. I mean, he was with the team for approximately 3 weeks, and so we just had to just play by ear and see what the team would be able to produce today.
Yep, and James as well. James and I have been covering so much football, the Euros, the Copa America, and now this. It's a football marathon. So, James, I know you also had some concerns. We all did. What were your initial thoughts heading into this game and now seeing the final result?
Well, I had my reservations with the team, obviously, with the same point about the preparation period for, obviously, Angus Eve. But, I mean, from what I saw in the game, I thought we knocked the ball about pretty well at times in the game. I mean, I have to say I was heavily disappointed in Montserrat, especially with the players that they've brought, most of them hailing from England. I think they didn't play together as a unit. I thought they looked woeful at the back, and we capitalised on that. Obviously, that's great for Trinidad and Tobago. It's terrible for them. But, I mean, we're here to talk about Trinidad, and I think there was a lot of positives. We scored, obviously, the 6 goals. I think we looked assured at times defensively. I mean, there was a few little lapses again, like we see generally. But in general, I think we did enough. And I think we probably got caught up a little bit in the game, with the physical side of the game. I mean, most of these guys from Montserrat play in England, lower leagues, they were leaving the boot in. We started to do that a little bit. And we just had to be careful with that. But I think we managed the game pretty well, and it's a good result.
Yes, and I'm just pulling some data off the CONCACAF site. Angus went with the formation that we suspected he would go with, his favorite formation, 4-2-3-1. Obviously Kevin Molino is back in the squad after a while. Andre, what did you think about Angus Eve's tactical approach to this game?
I think as you said, his lineup. I expected his lineup to be cautious. I expected him to he's a coach that normally builds from the back, so he likes to have that defensive solidity with 4 solid defenders as well as 2 anchoring. So today we saw that Neville Hackshaw and Kaleem Highland were just sitting in front of the defense, and he let Molino do his thing, and he had runners, able runners, and the hardworking Marcus Joseph, as well as, Telfer will always make that run. I was somewhat disappointed in Judah today. I was expecting a little bit more from him, especially the first half, but I guess he came into his own, and I'm glad that he got the goal that would definitely be a fillip to his confidence.
Yes. Juan Garcia replacing the other. James, being a former goalkeeper, there were questions, would he remain with Adrian Fonset? But, he went back with Nicholas Frendrup. What do you think about his performance today? He wasn't tested that much, to be honest. But there were a few moments in the beginning before the goal started coming in where he had to show his concentration because, as you know, if a goal is conceded really early, especially knowing Trinidad and Tobago guys, things could go all over the place. So what did you think about that?
I think he had a pretty decent game. I mean, there was 2 or 3 cross balls that came in. I was a bit taken aback. I think he came out and punched them, and it was a little bit scary moments to the two. But generally, he had a decent game. I think even with the goal, for example, if you actually watched the goal that Montserrat scored, he actually made a great save and put it onto the bar. Obviously, he couldn't get the follow-up, but it was a very good save. So I think it was a good performance from him. As I say, he just got caught, to me, coming out and punching the ball twice that I thought he could have comfortably held. But, I mean, he's came in from Norway again, obviously. He's not with the team for a whole amount of time. So these things take time. So, I mean, again, a decent, assured performance from him.
So the questions for both of you guys. So I'll start with Andre first. So let's talk about that penalty with that, horrendous injury to Aubrey David. His face, at least that's what it looked like to me. A lot of people were messaging me and saying, oh, that wasn't a penalty. They're not Trinidadians, by the way, Trinbagonians. I thought it was, but Andre, what do you think?
Definitely. From the moment that I saw the first replay, I said definitely that the referee will pull that back and award a penalty kick. And also kudos to Avery for continuing, because if that was me, I was on a stretcher looking at the rest of the game horizontally. So he showed a lot of grit, and I thought that a lot of the teammates probably took heart from that, showing that he's willing to put his sleeve, wear his heart on his sleeve, So it was nice to actually see that kind of fight. I also looked at Angus, and I saw a lot of passion from Angus on the bench. He was actually trying to rally the guys, and they seem, I mean, I don't want to speak too prematurely, but they seem to be playing for him. They seem to be, looking towards him for that sort of leadership. I'm not sure. I can't say if it was there before, wasn't there before. I can only talk about what is there now. And I'm actually seeing the team responding to Angus. I saw there was one particular play that I want to make mention to. There was a play that we were up like, I think 4-5-1, and it was Alvin Jones running down the right side, and he got in a little tussle with the player, and he ended up shoving the guy, right? And the referee called back the play. And then the camera panned to Eve, and we saw Eve screaming at Alvin, screaming at him to calm down. So we were ahead, and what that told me, what the impression or what I got from it was that Angus, despite being ahead, is still trying to instill that discipline into the team, and I was really happy to see that.
Yes. I'm going to ask the uncomfortable question that a lot of people won't ask, but I think this is the right crew to ask this question. Obviously, comparisons will be made between Angus Eve and Terry Fenwick. Obviously, if you look at the record, Terry Fenwick, he lost against the US, 2 draws, 2 wins. A lot of people are talking about, the loss against the Bahamas. But in terms of, if you look at the record,
the draw against Bahamas.
Yeah.
It felt like a loss, huh?
It's in my mind, it's like as a loss. Yes. But, a lot of people, I think that Bahamas draw, which feels like a loss, it seems to be like the nail in the coffin for Terry, but a lot of people were concerned when Angus was coming in as well. He's just basically coming in with no time with the players. People were asking me, what do you think happened? Is there a significant difference between 2 coaches? What do you think? That's a tough one, Andre.
Oh, so I wasn't sure if James was going to tackle that one.
Yeah.
But the evidence.
James will get his turn.
I mean, the evidence is clear for me. We looked a different team today. I mean, yes, I'm going to agree with James that Montserrat didn't come out and play as the team that we didn't play the way in which we expected that they would. But there was something about the team, the way in which the team kept pressing on. Or when we were 1-0 ahead or 2-0 ahead, I was looking for that complacency, because I remember under Dennis Lawrence at the National Stadium, we were ahead 2-0 against Martinique, and we bottled that game, and we ended up drawing 2-2. So I was a bit worried of when we were 2-0 ahead, but the team still pressed on. We pressed for goals. We were. I mean, a lot has to do with the fact that one of our best players back into the team. Well, his overall leadership, his composure on the ball, and it was nice to see that we actually played players in positions that they can kind of use their strengths. For example, I was happy that Telfer was on the left, and before we were playing Telfer through the middle, and he's not very effective as a number 9, but we actually saw a lot out of him on the left-hand side of the attack. So these sort of little changes, and we had the mobility with Lobo. So these sort of little changes, I guess it bore fruit today for Angus.
Yep. James, what are your thoughts?
No, I mean, I agree with everything you just said there, but I think, I'm going to be very brutally honest. I think Terry would have got a result here too. I'm not going to hide that fact. I mean, I don't think this was a game that we would have lost, but I think the big factor for me was personality clashes. Obviously, before, I think there was a huge personality clash with regards to Terry and some of the players, whether they just didn't get on, but they looked a lot more comfortable today, being honest. I mean, the camp seemed a lot more comfortable. They seemed comfortable on the ball, and they did seem to put a lot more effort in. The run, there was more running, there was more passion, there was more energy, even off the ball as well, which was good to see. So, I think it would be unfair to say I think Terry wouldn't have got a result here, because I think the quality of the team would have shone through. Although, yes, you could say, well, the game they drew, sorry, with
yeah. He was going to say a loss,
but
Yeah,
I was, yeah.
It feels like
but
it,
I think the quality today was here. I think, and the little additions to the squad too, I think helped. I thought the players that came in, did very well. I was questioning them in my mind beforehand, because I was curious how Angus was going to play. I wasn't sure if at the start of the game he was going with his 4-2-3-1, because there was at one point when they first ran out and we first started the game, it looked as if we went with a back five, and then they got into position.
Yes.
So I was
exactly.
worried. I was worried he had been watching the Euros too much, and he went with that. But I think all in all, it was a good performance. The players look comfortable, and I think that's a big factor for us going into the next game, because let's be honest, we don't know what we're going to expect from Cuba or French Guiana. I would imagine they'll be a little bit better than obviously the opposition we came up against today, but we don't know. So we will have to probably be on our guard. And the good thing with that is, that we're one game away from being back in the Gold Cup. That's a huge thing. Especially the situation that Trinidad Tobago football is in. That is huge for us. So it just takes that one good result coming up next. And I don't want to say things are rosy, but things are a little bit better.
Yeah, it's amazing how results can change, perception. Yeah, there was an interesting thing that the commentator said during the game, which could add to this discussion. And, perspective from somebody who's not from Trinidad and Tobago is very, is eye-opening at times. He said that it's interesting how Trinidad and Tobago has scored a large amount of goals in the last 4 games. And, he is looking at Guyana, also St. Kitts game. And this was before the goals started raining in. And he said, listen, under normal circumstances, that would be seen as a success, or even getting you into the hex under normal circumstances. And that's how someone else on the outside was looking. Obviously in Trinidad and Tobago, everybody has their opinions and preferences. So, that's something, I guess, a discussion we'll probably have to have on a whole other show, because obviously the inevitable comparisons will take place between the two. And I think I agree with James and Andre. I think as well, I think we both have a pretty unbiased view on both coaches. I think, there was obviously an element and sections in Trinidad and Tobago football that was just battling with Terry constantly. And that clearly had an impact on the team. And, I got a message just before we started the show from a couple people saying, they were comparing the squads. So I thought I would throw it at you guys. So, he was asking me, outside a couple players, obviously Molino wasn't there. And, obviously Jovan Jones is not here for this game. But no, he's back now.
Joven, Levi, and Reynolds Bato is not here. So we 3 very senior players.
Yeah, so those guys went there.
I should say.
And Molino comes back in. So, but generally, he made a point, and you all can let me know what you think. He said the squad was the same except for a couple guys. What do you think about that in terms of the squad wasn't that much different, but in his eyes, the outcome was a vast difference. So, Andrew, what do you think about that?
I think the squad, we could say it was generally the same in terms of the pool of players. But in most instances, you're going to have teams that are generally the same. For example, you have a coach managing a team and getting a particular set of results, and then that coach departs, and then a new coach comes in with the same players and gets a different set of results. So I don't know if we're going through some new manager bounce, but I'm happy for Angus, because I know that there was a big cloud over his head. I know that even with himself, he was a bit uncertain, because I think in my opinion, I think he was given a raw deal. I don't think this was fair to him, but he also couldn't refuse the job. You know, this was an opportunity that you can't refuse. So with this result, and hopefully if we get another result, let's hope that this sense of this upward trend will continue, and we will hopefully turn the proverbial corner.
Yes, yes. And also, speaking about clouds, I don't mean to be the cloud floating back into the conversation. But one thing Trinidad and Tobago has been known for, and Andrew, you brought this up before, complacency. You know, we win and we are Trinidadians, Trinbagonians get happy. We start to celebrate. You'll probably see all the posts on social media. And then sometimes we get a harsh slap in the face. Back down to it.
Yeah.
So obviously we have a crucial game coming up next when, you know, do you think that complacency can step back in? Because we've had shown it before. Do you think Angus could do enough to stop that from happening? I'll start off with Andrew and then James afterwards.
Definitely complacency is going to set him, and that's what Angus is being paid for. Well, I hope he getting paid. That's what Angus is. That's why he has the job.
Yes,
It's his job to keep the players, keep them grounded, because this could easily go bad. This could easily go down very, very quickly. In 3 days' time, we could be out the Gold Cup again.
Mm-hmm.
So it's his job to keep that focus, to let them know that the job is only halfway done. And I'm looking even beyond. The goal shouldn't just be qualifying for the Gold Cup. Is if we get to the Gold Cup, I don't know if you saw the group. We're in a really tough group.
Yep.
We're in a group with, I think, Mexico, El Salvador, and I think Curacao. And Curacao is no joke.
Yep.
So it's moving on from just qualifying. So I'm hoping that he instills in the players that it's a journey that we want to take, and the journey is qualifying and then going into the group games, having a good performance in the group, and if so be it, we move on to the knockout stages, and one step at a time, we actually make some progress as a unit.
Yep. James, what do you think about dealing with possible complacency issues?
Well, I think, first of all, the greatest thing that comes out of it, the fact that we get to see French Guiana and Cuba play. Well, it's today actually now, tomorrow, but today.
Yeah.
So they'll get to see them before the game, which is a great thing. So they'll get to see who they're coming up against. I think the complacency thing is always a factor. Since I've been in Trinidad and Tobago, that's been something that always bothered the team. But Angus is a new head. I mean, I think he has the discipline there to kind of keep the guys rallied, and I think there's enough new players in the squad there that will be desperate for a chance that will keep the team ticking away. I mean, coming back to your question just earlier about a different coach with the same players. I mean, in the same sense, we could all make a cake, same ingredients, but it's going to come out differently. And that's the funny thing. It's just those little characteristic changes in the squad, and you could see a little bit of it today. I mean, I thought Highland, you could see, even although at one point I think he gave away a foul and he got yellow carded, but you could see it on his face that the fight and the leadership. It was a foul to make, to help the team. I didn't see that before in the last couple of games, So I think there's a lot of positives we could take out of it. But if we go and lose the next game, obviously that's massive. But another thing to think about is we go win this next game and we go into the Gold Cup and we get destroyed by the 3 or 4 teams that are going to come up against. It's something we have to really think about too. We have to go into that Gold Cup ready. I mean, and my little worry is this squad good enough to go and compete in that Gold Cup group stage? That's the only worry I have.
I was actually surprised to find out that I was asking Andre if he knew when the Gold Cup was. Do you know the Gold Cup is next week, right?
It's next week, yeah.
That's what I mean. So I'm like, wow. So I know he was talking about a 60-man squad, and hopefully there might be a couple of players coming in, but I can't see what sort of different players that you're going to bring in, and this leads to the question that I wanted to ask before. I'm going to pose to you guys. During Terry Fenwick's tenure, he always made mention of players that he was talking to, players that he has been in contact with, possible players with ancestry who they're trying to get passports. Where are those players now? Are those players available to Angus? Are those players on the radar of the TTFF? Are those players, in terms of playing for Trinidad and Tobago and making the squad even better, having a better pool of players, or did those players go with Terry? So, and because nobody seems to be asking those questions, because I mean, I respected the fact that Terry didn't name any of the players, and that's fine because you don't want to jump the gun before anybody is confirmed. But in terms of the process continuity, are those players still being pursued, or were those players solely under the realm or under the guise of Terry Fenwick?
Well, that's a very good question. But James, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first because it's actually something we spoke about quite a lot over the last couple of weeks, with regards to obviously the change in the coaches. I mean, we actually have an idea of quite a few who the players are. And the first thing I would say is I think this squad that we have now for the Gold Cup, you cannot change. So that's the first point I would say.
I think it's a 60-man squad. It's a 60-man squad. Yeah.
So we can add, but only from that 60, right?
Yeah, we have 6 because I know that this guy Phillips from Watford, he's in the 60-man squad, but he's not in this 26. So they could still. I think Levi Garcia and Sheldon Bato, they are also in that 60-man squad as well.
Okay, well, and with regards to the English guys and all the different players that they're trying to get in, I mean, as I say, we spoke about this on countless occasions, and I think this is one of the big problems I've had. We don't know if was it Terry that made obviously the communication to these players, or was it the TTFA? Sorry, and this is a big problem I think they have in Trinidad. I mean, at the end of the day, it should be the federation, speaking to the players on behalf of the coach. But I think there's such a great divide in who's doing things, and we don't know who's done things. And there was times we were seeing at press conferences, obviously Terry being the coach was talking about these players, but then probably the federation have no idea. So I don't think you're going to see a good chunk of them, because I'm sure Terry did have conversations with them, and it was probably, I mean, let's be honest, in football there's relationships, So I think a lot of those players would have agreed to play for Terry. No disrespect to Trinidad, but I think that's
of course, I get that. I mean, I heard a couple of names we mentioned, like Ryan, the former Crystal Palace defender was Ryan Innes. And there was a striker from Scotland, I think.
Mackenzie,
Mackenzie was being looked at. They were trying to reconvince John Buster to come back again. So
I'm trying not to laugh, but yeah.
I think they'll still be talking about John Bostock when he's 48 or something. I don't know, but I mean, just to come back to it, I mean, I think it's one of those ones that the TTFA should have been working on these things. I mean, some of these guys were just basically waiting for passports that we heard. So to me, the fact that they don't have them now is absolutely ludicrous. But
it's crazy.
I would say that the 60-man squad is obviously all they have. But it's a good question you're posing, because it makes you think. You have to think down the line. I mean, you have to think after Gold Cup, because whether we qualify or whether we don't, we have to look towards the future. But the simple answer is we don't know, but I'm thinking that, as I say, a lot of those conversations were had by Terry, and probably a good chunk of those players will not come, especially because they heard a lot of the bad press that's came out of what's going on as well. So, I mean, I don't know if Andre has anything he wants to add to it.
The only thing I could add is, well, it's two things. Basically what James is saying is true, because I think Terry was in fact trying to get these guys, and there were so many administrative things that were causing problems to get these guys here, because we had a couple of brief conversations. There was an interview that EXTV did with him, and he identified these players. And it always seems, and Andre could attest to this, because Andre, if you remember back in 2016, you did some little pit side interviews with Bostock.
Yeah.
So
and it just went downhill. It was we had a lengthy conversation. We actually sat down and looked at the game together. I remember. We sat down and we spoke, and he was really enthused. Unless he gave me a 619, he seemed very interested at that point. And then at some point, when it was a flick of a switch, the touch of a button, it just switched. It just changed, and that was the end of Trinidad Tobago and John Buster.
And I remember even back then, the reasons for him not playing were very ambiguous and almost kind of lazy. Like I remembered, because Andre and I were at the same games. And I got some pictures. I had a conversation with him, and he seemed like he was all in at the training sessions. He was all in. And, just before the game, his passport got lost. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, there was one time he traveled with the team and he was training with the team. He went to St. Vincent with the team. They were training, and a couple of days before the game, there was some kind of administrative error that deemed him ineligible.
Yeah, so
Which was strange.
It's such a bizarre thing, and
then he came back and to the for the home leg against St. Vincent. I think that he gave me 1-6-0 or something.
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
He beat them 6-0. And he was in the stands. He was cheering. He was pumping his fists, and he was really into the game. And then he jumped on a plane and he never came back to Trinidad.
Oh gosh.
maybe Andre was the reason he left. Who knows? But
Probably.
but all jokes aside, I agree with what you were saying, because I saw that as well, because I was just as baffled, and it goes back to the topic now. I think, and this is me guessing, because we could never really know. These guys, you're in another country, a national coach calls you that you're possibly eligible for, and you're seeing all the mayhem that takes place.
Yeah.
These guys are probably thinking, I don't know, if I want to get involved with this. It sounds like a lot of mayhem. I mean, if the press is attacking the coach like this, there's always things leaking out in the press. It seems like complete mayhem. Sure, we won this game today, but like somebody like Bostock, I mean, he's maybe not the best example, because when he first came around, he was still, his stock, interesting choice of words, was still pretty high in terms of England, because he was the captain.
I think he when he came across, he had just left to play in France, I believe.
France, yeah.
Yeah, and he was playing at a fairly high level in France, and then he came. I can't remember where he went after that, but I know he was playing in Championship after, and now he's in League One, I believe. Not League One, League One in England, I think. Yeah. So I mean, he's still playing at a higher level than a lot of the players that we currently have. So he should be pursued as an option. He was in the country, but I guess that force has left his still.
Yeah, but to answer your question after all that, is that I think honestly, a lot of the players, I don't even think it's really even down to Terry. I think they were interested because of, I guess, his former connections, ex-England national player. Obviously, Terry has his little network of people as well. And I think it's very possible that, they probably decided, this looks like too much for me. Doesn't mean, I don't think from my interactions with Terry, he's the kind of guy who would say, listen, I'm not there, don't play anymore. But as James said, I think some relationships develop. And, I think as you saw with previous coaches, there were coaches that were really attached to Stephen Hart.
Yes.
And then when Stephen Hart left, they were gone.
Players. Mm-hmm. Yeah, correct.
So, it's, correct. As James said, relationships. So I think it comes down to that. And, I guess maybe in the future we'll see. Angus seems to be a pretty charismatic guy. So I don't know if Angus could do that. But, we'll see. We'll have to observe. And maybe we'll see if we can capture some interviews. And
not to be controversial, but I don't think I'm putting it out there that I don't think Angus will actually pursue any of them, because he has this mentality that he believes in the talent that we have locally. That's that's a nice way to put it. But he believes in the talent that we have locally, and so I think if someone wants to play, he will accept them into the fold. But I could be wrong, because I don't know Angus that well in terms of personally. But I don't think that he is the type of coach that will reach out to a player to try to convince him to play. I think he has that sense of, whether it be good or bad, but national pride, whether it's good or bad or appropriate or necessary in this instance, to say, no, I want you to want to play for Trinidad, as opposed to me wanting you to play for Trinidad. Yeah. So I'm assuming that he might be going down that route.
I understand what you mean. For example, I'll use a little example before we move along. A lot of coaches in Trinidad and Tobago would have not picked Christopher Butcher. So, he was some guy in England, and, Ben Hacker came in, and, he was like, okay, this guy is going to play. Because I remember during the 2006 campaign, which seems like a million years ago now, I heard, the little talk, because I was a fan then, and you would hear coaches saying, I don't know, why were we picking this guy? We have enough talent here. Turned out he was a crucial guy for us.
Yeah. I think he came in. I remember when he came in the squad, he came in for a practice game against a Peruvian a Peruvian club team. That was Ben Hacker's first game, and he had a pretty good showing. Yeah, I guess people were kind of in two minds, but I guess he because of his natural style of play, because he puts it out there. I think he got the affection of the team or the fans pretty quickly, because he was a player that, yes, I agree that he's not somebody that we would have scouted and wanted to play for us, but when he got into the squad, I think that the determination, the drive that he had, the never say that attitude that is far different culturally from what we have down here in terms of our casual nature, was something that stood out as an element that was missing for the team. So I guess he added that element as well, and he picked himself after a while.
All right, guys. So, this is a very interesting conversation, which we'll definitely have to continue. So, Andre, you're going to have to join us again. So, just to end things off. So, obviously, we don't know who our opponents are yet. We'll find out in a little while. So, I'll end this off with two questions. Do you think that Angus will be getting the job if he does not get the results as the permanent coach? And, do you think that based on what we've seen today, that it's enough to get past the possible scenarios of who we have to play? So,
okay.
Andre.
I'll answer. Okay. Those two very easy questions.
Yep.
Right? The first question, it's a hit or miss for Angus.
Mm-hmm.
If he wins these two games and he gets us into the Gold Cup, he will get the job. I'm convinced that he will be permanently. He's in the driver's seat. He is the one. He can lose the job now, right? So I'm considering him as the permanent manager of the team already. So it's his job to lose. If he makes the Gold Cup, he's gonna get the job. Or even if I can't remember if the contract is to the end of the Gold Cup. So if he makes the Gold Cup and he has a decent showing, meaning that we get to the quarterfinals, or we play decent against Mexico, we draw against El Salvador, and we narrowly lose to Curacao, we have a decent showing, he will get the job. But if we lose on Tuesday, that's it, he's out. And in terms of I think we have enough to get past the next team. I think most likely it might be Cuba. Historically, it might be Cuba. And I think it might be a tight game, but it will come down to the first goal as today. It came down to the first goal, which changed the whole complexion again, and some knockout fixture. So if you go a goal behind, you need to open up and attack relentlessly, and that created the spaces in the back for us to exploit. So it comes down to the first goal, and hopefully we get it on Tuesday, and we were able to close out and get the victory.
All right. James, your thoughts?
I mean, I agree with just about everything. The only thing I would say is, if we get embarrassed, and if we do make it to the Gold Cup and get embarrassed in the group stage, for example, I can't see him getting it then. But I think if he gets past this game against, as I say, I'm mostly saying Cuba probably. Which could be a test for us too, because of, the little bit of pace they possess. But I think he's definitely going to be in the running for it. But I think what the normalisation committee have done is, because they've thrown it out there and said, well, he will be in the running for it, they've opened it up to say, to see, I think, or put the feelers out, who else is interested in it, outside of Trinidad probably as well, because, we know that, yes, the TTFA don't have money, but there's still money there somehow, that's all I'm going to say. We see it. So, I think they've left that little bit of suspicion, that just to see, what coaches are probably out there, probably outside of Trinidad, because I think if they were going to give MD else locally, they would have talked about that before they pointed Angus. These were the people they were considering. So I think really locally, realistically, it's probably only Angus. But I think if he does give a good show, and yes, he will get it. I have no problem with that. But I think if we get some bad results, well, that would be goodbye Angus kind of thing. So I agree with that statement. And I'm trying to remember the second question there now. What was that again now?
Well, you kind of answered both.
I think you answered, yeah.
There you go. Yes.
Yeah. So James went into full thinking mode, but
yeah,
it's one of those things where I guess football is fickle. I guess they can love you one moment, everybody's probably going to sing his praises, and then the next minute you're gone. That's the cruel nature of the game, and we are very, very sometimes unrealistically so critical in Trinidad and Tobago. So, and guys,
there's one thing we have to consider as well. Sometimes in Trinidad, it just does not come down to football. Well, let's put it just out there. I'm not even going to give examples, but there could be anything between now and September that happen I mean, somebody falls out with somebody says something to somebody posts something that could just change the whole complexity of the situation.
Yeah. So a lot of variables here.
Yes.
Still come into play. You're right.
Yeah, correct. You read my mind. Something always getting leaked out. It's I mean, it seems like, confidential means nothing to this organization. So, I'm pretty sure we'll probably get the details of the contract sooner rather than later. It's going to end up somewhere on WhatsApp. I know I'm fanning the flames by saying that, but it's the truth. I mean, that's how we get all information.
My God.
So folks, this has been great, guys. We've had a good result. It's been a while since we had, a series of positive results. I mean, even with Terry, we had some good results. And now we have this result that's really great. I know a lot of people had their doubts, us included. So, folks, let us know what you think in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share. Let us know what you think. And be sure to join us again. So, Andre, once again, it's a pleasure to have you back after such a long time.
Yeah, nice to be here, man.
And, James, as always, we'll continue our Euros and Copa discussions. And Andre hopefully you'll join us after the next game tomorrow. Yeah. Well, today.
All right.
All right, folks. So once again, thank you for joining us. Be sure to like, subscribe. I'm going to say that 100 million times. Post and let us know what you think, because this was quite a game, folks, especially that Marcus Joseph goal. Let's talk about that in the comment section. So thank you for joining us. Just a reminder, everyone, for more episodes with Shaka Hislop, be sure to head over to our YouTube channel. Also, don't forget to subscribe for more updates, interviews, and content.